the end, but we wanted a sense of what is it that you think a good math student needs to be able to do and what kind of characteristics that they have. I just want you to think for a moment about this. It says, there is nothing that prevents a child from being good at math. There is something called readiness, and the right kind of experiences and high expectations will get them to be a math person. So that is what this entire workshop is predicated upon, that anyone can become a good math student. Now before I move forward, let me tell you who we are. My name is Aparna Rajagopal. I am the STEM supervisor for our district.
Hi everyone, I'm Jessica Nastasi. I supervise elementary math and science for the district.
Hi, I'm Mark Riccardi, Language Arts and Social Studies Supervisor for Crossroads North and South Middle School. And I'll explain later why the Language Arts Supervisor is at the math workshop. There's a reason.
It's a really good one too. So I just wanted to tell you what you can expect to get out of tonight. So we are going to talk about what we as parents can do at home to establish a mathematical mindset, what kind of messages we need to share with our children, what does the brain research say, why these practices are good, and then we're going to give you some strategies and routines that you can practice with your children. Doesn't mean you need a notebook, pen, paper. We're going to show you some things that you can do in everyday life. And we are also going to give you some resources that will support your child at home. On your way out, we have some handouts that you can take with you. So here's the agenda for tonight. We're going to first talk about something called math anxiety. Then we're going to move on to talk about the power of words. Then I'm going to talk to you about your brain and what happens to the brain when we make mistakes. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about some strategies and resources that you can do to develop a mathematical mindset in your children. We have, if you, at the table that you're at, there are some index cards. It's entirely possible that you will have questions and maybe feedback and maybe suggestions. I cannot promise you that we'll get to each one of them, but if you write it on those and on your way out, if you give it to us, we will collate all these and create maybe an FAQ sheet or something and provide answers to you, all right? So that's why we have index cards for you to provide, to jot down your thoughts. Sometimes you might have a thought in the middle of something we're sharing, and it might not be the right moment for you to share it. So put it on that card, and then when time comes for questions, you can share it then, all right? So there is a companion book which we're going to give away as a raffle, right, Miss Mariano?
Yeah.
And she'll tell you how she's going to find out who gets this book. The book is called What's Math Got to Do With? And it's written by a professor called Dr. Joe Bowler, who's a professor of mathematics education. And a lot of what we tell you will be echoed in the book as well. Not every single thing, but much of what we talk about, the mathematical mindset, is in the book. So it's a really good book. All of us read it, and I can tell you, it's very easy to use what she tells you to do. And that is the book that you could win in a raffle. And like I told you, a lot of what you'll see in this presentation will also be echoed in the book, not exactly, but much of it. So, Mark.
Math anxiety makes sense that I'm talking about this now. So I'm going to tell you two quick stories, and then I'll lead into what we're going to have you do in a minute. For myself, when you were putting up the words before on the Slido, a lot of people, you were putting, number sense, logic, like regression, all these different things. If I was doing that when I was my math experience, I would have said intelligence, aptitude, ability. I wouldn't have thought about the process or the way we think about mathematically. I was someone who I could do computation when I was a kid, but by the time I got to higher math, I was out. I was lost, so I just assumed I was no longer good at it. I just assumed, well, that's it, I'm done. I got the pre-calculus, I survived it, I'm out. And I never really worried about math again. Which now, hanging out with these two, I kind of realized that's not really necessarily the case. So with my own son, I have two sons. My younger son, he decided when he was younger he wasn't good at math. And he would say that, I'm just not good at math, I can do other things, I'm not good at that. So we kind of started to shift the conversation with him for the past couple of years, like, yet, adding the word yet, and we're going to see that later too, like, this isn't a skill you've mastered yet. This is something that we're going to work on. This is something you can do, and just kind of keep that, it's just part of the process, and this is what you're doing right now. So it all plays into lowering that anxiety, and what can you do to improve, and what is it you do well, but then what else do we need to work on, and things like that. So Dr. Bowler talks about those things, so we're going to play part of it. We're going to play this video, but we're going to play part of it, and I'm going to ask you to have a discussion at your table with the lovely folks you're sitting next to now.
I released this book for parents and the public a couple of years ago with a US version and a version from the UK. And as part that book took me on a journey that I hadn't been on before, during which I met a huge number of highly professional and educated people, many of them women, who were absolutely terrified of maths. Now, I've always known that far too many people have a terrible time with math, but these people really showed me the depth of trauma and the severity of the reaction. So when that book came out, I was interviewed on about 40 different radio stations across the US and BBC stations across the UK. And the presenters, almost all of them, shared with me their own stories of trauma. It was kind of interesting. I was introduced as this mathematics education professor, but early on I said that I know that mathematics is very traumatic for lots of people. And as soon as I said that, the interviewers really opened up, and the sessions became more like therapy sessions as these different people shared their tales of trauma. So we're going to listen to one of them from the US. This was Kitty Dunn reporting on Wisconsin radio.
Well, why is math such a scarring experience for so many people? Is it something about the people who are into math maybe just don't know that much about teaching and engaging kids because it's two different sides of the brain, or what's going on there that happens? I mean, for me, I still remember the name of the author of my algebra book because it like burned into my head from here. You know what I mean? And so, I guess I don't know why is it that there are a lot of great English teachers you don't really hear too many kids with scarring English class experience?
No, that's right. I mean, math really plays a unique role in our children's lifetimes and being that subject that can crush their confidence.
So what was notable to me was really...
Okay, so we're going to pause there for 1 second. And I would have to say, I taught in a classroom at Crossroads North and South for 18 years. And I know that I had students who struggled with reading and writing well and constructing paragraphs and essays, but I rarely had students say the exact phrase of, I'm just not good at reading, or I'm just not good, but it's not really the acceptable thing to term, but if someone says, I'm just not good at math, child, adult, it's kind of like, yeah, I know what you mean. I can't do that either. And that's an accepted phrase. So, and that's common to what the person on the radio show is saying. So take 2 minutes and just have a conversation with somebody at your table or the entire table about your experience with math in school and how you viewed yourself as a math student or any of the difficulties you had. So get to know some people sitting next to you, have a quick conversation. Okay, we're gonna bring you back up here. Very nice, very friendly conversation. Hopefully you had something in there about, about math. We're going to throw this out there. If nobody raises their hand, we're not going to be offended. Would anyone like to share something they shared about their experience as a math student? And, you like Yes.
I had just made a comment and I said that, I have young children and I was never that great at math, but I could never miss like a lesson, because if I missed a lesson then I felt like it took forever for me to catch up, and I don't want for my kids to feel that way, which is why I'm here. And then I had also just said, we read to our children. In my household, we read stories to our children every night, both in English and in Spanish. But we don't do math problems every day. We don't. So, that's just the reality of it in our household. And I wanted my kids to be more engaged with math than perhaps I am. I'm good with money, but my husband, if the kids have problems with math, they go to him.
Anybody else? Yep. Yes.
Before you leave today, you will have that. So if you're not letting you go.
All right, so this was a response from my daughter, and she said, when the teacher throws something at the students in the class, if she doesn't get it the first time, she thinks everyone else is smarter, and I'm not that good at it.
But that's true. Like, you immediately, if you see the person next to you nodding and going, yeah, got it, and doing it quickly, you automatically assume they've got it, I don't. When in reality, you don't know their process, their prior knowledge, their all those different things. So it definitely, all those things kind of play. We get one more. One more. Come on. We got that side. We got the middle. Anybody over there? No. All right.
Anybody else wants to share? All right. Oh, there's somebody back there. Although we're losing, okay, just for a team sport this time.
About my own experience, I feel I don't see math around so much. It's like, as she said, we don't talk about math in bedtime, like we read stories or discuss about other things on the dining table. There's nothing like math. Show me the calculus, where it is. Show me the derivatives, where it is. Unless you're really into that field. At some point of time when you start feeling it's of no use to me. Why should I wreck my hand over it?
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you all for sharing.
I'm just going to put a quick plug for those of you who think you can't do math at bedtime. There's an application that you can download called Bedtime Math. Get it on your phone. There really is, and I do it with my kids, and they love it. We didn't put it in your handout, so make sure you write that one down. Bedtime Math. It's awesome. So, looking at it here tonight, we're hoping that you can take some immediate steps to reduce that anxiety that your children may feel towards mathematics. So, in the elementary world, we do a signal, me too. It's like this. And I just want you to do that if you've ever heard somebody say some of these things about math. That's easy. Or, obviously. That's obvious, right? Or, I can't do math. I'm not the one to help with math. My husband or wife is the one that does the math. She's good at math. Or he's good at math. Or, I'm just not a math person. We already talked about that. And we're going to start to take those out of our vocabulary, because I'm going to teach you a very secret, top secret, classified formula today. And that is, in order to be a math person, there's 2 steps. Are you listening? Step 1, just do math, and it can be any kind of math, multiplication, division, fractions, whatever. And step 2 is to be a person. That's it. We are all capable of achieving at high levels in math. So we hope you can leave here tonight echoing that with your children, and also that power of yet. So maybe your child comes home after an assessment and they're feeling like a little defeated, like I just can't do division. I just can't, I don't get it. You're going to support them in following that statement with the word yet. Oh, I can't add fractions. Well, you can't do it right now, but you can't do it yet. Okay? It shows that growth mindset that we're going to continue persevering through that. And right now, we may be in that place, but we're going to move forward and we're going to do it together. And you have those resources tonight to be able to reinforce what's going on in school at home.
So Jess just told you about, don't say obviously or that's easy. I don't know about all of you, but I do that a lot to my family, and I can tell you it's not about math, it's about anything. Like my son will come and say, Mom, where's the bread? I'm like, really? Obviously. I often start many of my sentences, obviously. My husband is my victim most of the time, right? He asks me, do I need to? I'm like, really? Obviously you need to, right? And what my son and my husband once ganged up together, and they told me every time I started with obviously, it made them feel about that high, and they did not even want to try. As a teacher sometimes, or as a parent, when I've sat down to teach, I've often said that's easy, and in my mind, I say that because I want to calm all the fears of my student or my son when I work with them. I'm like, that's really easy, don't worry about it. But what that does to the brain of the person is, it's so easy, but I'm not getting it, so that means I must not be very smart. And that's not something we expect, and that's not the reason we say that's easy either. So it has the opposite effect of what we want. And that was the reason we started by telling you that don't start with that's easy or obviously, because that does two things which we don't want, but it's very difficult to not be, that's easy, don't worry about it. No, let's try not to. So I want to start with that because that is a mistake we make and we can learn from it. So what does the brain research tell us, right? So we really are not making all this stuff up. We can map the brain now. So much of this is coming from neuro research. So there have been extensive studies that were done, and I'm quoting one of the studies that was done at Michigan State by Moser and his team. And they had people type a string of letters, like either MMMMM or MMMNMMM, whatever it was. And then they put on a cap which had electrodes attached to it so it could map the brain activity. And they asked people to select the middle alphabet in a string of alphabets. And people went on clicking, and every time they clicked on the wrong one, they had that, oh my God, I made a mistake response. And some people also had this, they realized that they had to be more alert, and then that was the second response that their brain made. So there were two brain signals. The people whose brain signal, like, oh my God, I made a mistake, I know how to fix this next time, and they decided to make a change, that second signal was a lot larger. All this happens within less than 25 seconds, okay? It's a very quick process in your brain. But anybody who decided to fix the mistake, their brain showed greater activity. So that is the power of mistakes. Once you recognize that you've made a mistake, but you use that mistake to learn and to grow, your brain grows. Our brains are pretty elastic. They can grow even as we grow older. There is no point at which our brain does not grow anymore. And particularly with young children, it's important to capitalize on mistakes. So, and when they make a mistake, it's important for them to recognize what was the mistake they made and to go back and fix it, because that's when they learn. That second signal, that's what makes them sharper. That's what all the research says. And every time you make a mistake, because it's a time of struggle, your brain grows. But we do recognize that it's extremely difficult to keep that, right? So we have a picture of a brain at your tables. If you would just pick one up, we're going to do a really quick little activity that you can do with your children. Any anything we do today, you can do with your kids and share with them. So once you have a brain, I want you to crumple it up, think of all the frustration you've ever felt, and throw it on the ground. Crumple it up, throw it on the ground. Put all your frustrations in there. You can throw it on the ground, yes, throw it on the ground. In a moment. So, here's what I want you to do now. So if you would pick it up and open it, I want you to pick it up and open it. Alright, no, don't just leave it crumpled. Yeah. So I want you to now see how many. So you see those lines that are in the brain? If you were to connect up all the creases that you made when you crumple it up and threw it, would you say now there are more lines being joined? That represents the synapses that fired when you made a mistake, and then that got connected. So the more synapses that fire, the more your brain is working and growing. So that's a neat activity with your children to show when you're frustrated and you're making a mistake, that's how much your brain has the power to grow, right? Your brain is firing at that point. So there's power in making mistakes. Mistakes are good and we have to embrace them. That is part of what growth mindset is predicated upon. Those of us who believe that we can grow, we can. And that is a sign of, that really is just representation, but it does show you how many new connections are made. So, I'm sure many of you know this quote from Michael Jordan. I'm just going to give you a minute to read it, and then I'm going to ask Jess to. Can everybody see it? No?
Well, I'm just saying. So it was through the shots that he missed over and over, which is what he attributes his success to. It's that failure and failing forward. And what you might do with your children is take those markers, we could do it now, and just kind of draw lines over where the creases are to show those synapses firing in the brain through mistakes. So that's another thing that you could do to take that to the next level and have that visual. Because that's actually what is happening in your brain when you make a mistake. So the power of our words, we focus on this a lot in South Brunswick as teachers. Our words are some of our most powerful tools, and the same goes for you as parents. So, like we've talked about, with the right learning environment, the right instruction, and the messages that we send to our children about math, anyone can be successful. Anyone can be a math person. So I was watching this movie the other night with my kids, Meet the Robinsons. Anybody ever seen this? It's on Netflix right now, right? So if you have Netflix, it's there. And so it really resonated with me, and it made me think of this workshop. And so what happened is there's this little boy, Lois, and he is an engineer, little engineer, and he's trying to make an invention, but it's just not working out for him. He's been working on this peanut butter and jelly machine. And it's supposed to make sure that he can shoot equal amounts of peanut butter and jelly on the sandwich, right? Awesome idea. And so in this video, we're gonna think about what is the shift, like what is different about the praise and the messages that the characters are sending him than what maybe has traditionally been praised. And what could the effect be on children? Okay?
Okay, that should do it. It's so exciting. Let her rip, Lewis.
Quickly, Uncle Joe can't hold on much longer. Everybody ready?
Go, Carl. Oh, I didn't know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
You failed! It was awesome. Exceptional.
Outstanding. But I'm failing learn. From success, not so much.
If I gave up every time I failed, I never would have made the meatball cannon.
I never would have made my fireproof pants. Still working out the kinks.
Like my husband always says.
If you haven't seen it, my kids love it, and that keep moving forward phrase has become this little catchphrase of my house. So anytime I feel frustrated, keep moving forward. Okay, we're gonna keep moving forward. So again, I asked you to think about, well, what's the shift? So we're gonna take just a minute to turn and talk. What's different than what we've traditionally praised, and what could be the impact on children if we praise this? Go ahead and turn to the people around you. Together. Just talking over here, there was just a little key phrase also, besides the keep moving forward, that stood out over here, so I just wanted you to share that one more time.
Hey, good evening. I'm Kapilan. The thing I got from this video is that learn from failure, but from success you don't learn much, you don't get done, but from failure you have the opportunity of learning. So that thing I liked it. So it's like paying forward. That's another thing which I liked. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Hi. So we talk about over here, what's really important is that regardless of whether they succeed or fail, our job is to ask important questions about how hard the child worked. So if my child received a 90, which is great, my question afterwards, like, we're going to celebrate it, right? We're going to then ask, okay, so what did you do to earn that 90? What strategies did you use? How much effort did you put into that? And if next time they don't earn that high grade, we're going to also talk about the same things. Okay, what did you do this time that you didn't do last time? You know? So that's what we talked about, and focusing on effort, strategy, and the attitude versus the product and the end result. That's important to create that growth mindset.
So we're going to talk about the difference between, and we all say that too, hopefully say it too, we compliment them on the work they did, we focus on them as people. So then they get used to how they identify. So, it says, great job, you must be smart at this. That's the person praise. And they hear that, so they automatically assume I'm smart because you keep telling me I'm smart. But then when that failure happens, how do they adapt and learn from that when they say, well, someone told me I was smart the whole time and now I failed at this, then I'm not smart, and now there's that divide. So where is then the idea of are they smart or not smart then becomes very, very confusing. So we look at more having process praise, like praising the work and the effort, like Mr. Desai said, having the idea of what strategies did you use, how were you successful, what was it that made the skill you put into place. So all of those different things. So we're going to do one, and then we're going to give you the opportunity. Get up and move around if you'd like. So we're going to talk about this one. So great job, you must be smart at this. Anyone have a way off the top of their head they can maybe think of what a way to praise the process? Thank you. Or would you just like me to hit the button and give you an idea? You going? Yes. Shout it out. Go, just shout it out. I got there.
Instead, I would just say that great job. See, you are getting the result of your effort, or your hard work, what you have been doing now we get the result. So keep doing that.
Successful because of your hard work.
That's 5 points. One person getting there. Good.
You can either say, I'm glad that you're trying, I like how you're achieving your goal.
Excellent. So then, click that. Yep. So. Slow. One. All right. So yeah, great job. Most of you worked really hard. All those things are in place. So we have a few more here, and there's even an option if you come up with one on your own. Extra points for that. See, you are good at math. You got an A on your last test. You got it. I told you that you were smart, or you are such a good student. So if you'll notice, if you look around the room, this slide is in poster form in multiple places around the room. So we encourage you, we're going to give you a few minutes, talk at your table, look at the different ones, see if you can come up with an alternate process praise statement. If you then feel you got a really good one, you got a good answer, there are dry erase markers near every poster, I believe. If not, we'll run one over to you. If someone at your table would like to go write one of your changes onto the poster, how to change it from person praise to process praise, and then we'll take about 5 minutes and we'll go over a few of the answers we come up with.
You find markers which are just beneath the poster. Either kept on the ground or they And those of you who want to stay in your seat, you can do that too. There's index cards, there are pens, so whatever you choose. So you have 5 minutes to start the camera now. So go. And go. That means get up.
Would anyone like to share any of the ones they wrote on a poster? Or in a conversation?
So, what I really want to say is, you got an A, but why did your classmate get an A+? But what I end up saying is, okay, good job.
I can show you what you should say. One option.
You really study for your math test and your improvement shows it?
That's just one option. There's somebody over there.
Oh. I'm moving. My favorite, someone wrote over there, kiss your brain, which I thought was actually really awesome. Just own that,
For the second one, I would say we can say that you seem to be enjoying math a lot. So the more you enjoy, the better grades you might get. So enjoy what you're doing with it.
I say to my daughter, by seeing your result makes you happy, so keep up the good work.
So you got it. I told you were smart. You tried all kinds of strategies on that math problem until you finally got it. And I saw the word strategies and hard work and using your skills in multiple posters around. You were such a good student. You stayed at your desk, you kept your concentration, you kept working. That's great. So that effort, rewarding, you didn't give up on it. You kept after it, and which also fits into this one, which I really enjoyed. Bro, I told you that studying would pay off. So that again, that hard work in the language that you use with here, and then so those are all good. So thank you for sharing those.
So I wanted to show you a video that you can get even the youngest children to believe that when they make a mistake, their brain grows. Very often we do tell our kids about them being a genius or them being super smart. That becomes about the person, the qualities that they were born with. And now there's so much research out there that says you are not born intelligent or you're not born a math person or a language arts person. We can develop all those qualities in us, and there are now, in addition to just content, like children in 4th grade need to multiply, divide, or in addition to those standards, there are standards which are called math practice standards, which talks about can a child offer a rational argument about and justify why they chose a particular way to solve a problem. Can they check for the reasonableness of an answer? There are 144 cupcakes and there are 20 people. How many cupcakes did each person get? 20 times 144. Does that even make sense, right? So children are required to be able to think about that, reasonableness. Those are standards which are now tested, right? Can a child justify their thinking? Can they check for reasonableness? Can they check for accuracy and precision? When they're talking about dividing, do they know what is the numerator and what is the denominator? Or are they randomly using those words? Those things are also important. That's why we need to move away from saying somebody's intelligent or smart, because we're not born knowing what's a numerator, what's a divisor, what is a fraction, right? Those are things we all learn. So that was one of the important things we wanted to share. We're going to show you a video of kindergartners who have been trained in this mathematical growth mindset, and you'll see what they're capable of saying.
One more thing, the number one math practice standard that Dr. Rodrigo Paul was referring to is persevere while solving problems. And there's a reason why that is number one, in addition to all of those.
It's where we work really hard to grow our brain. If you learn something new, your brain makes new connections. When it makes new connections and it practices it again, the connections become stronger. And that is how growth mindset works.
You've got to try and try it again, and the connections in your brain, the new ones connect together, and then you can do it any time you want. Try your hardest. Just keep trying. You know not to do that again, and you learn from your mistakes.
You never give up. And you never go in it.
And never cry if you get something wrong, just keep on trying.
So does it matter if you make a mistake?
No.
No. So what do you do if you make a mistake?
You try and try again until you get it right.
And you use your brain mindset.
You try your best. Try to get it right stronger.
You try again.
You try your best. You don't give up. Doesn't give up if he makes mistakes. We make mistakes. We make mistakes, but people will make it bigger. Your brain will be bigger.
The Yeti monster is on the tree.
Ah, the Yeti, okay. And what does the Yeti monster help you do?
Remember to say, I can't do it yet when you can't really do it.
And then you're the Yeti monster.
It is because you keep practicing. If you learn from them, and then when you try and try, then learn. You can do it.
So you get the idea that even really, really young students can be trained to think this way.
So we share this routine with our teachers here. When work comes home or work is collected in class, trying to discuss your favorite mistake rather than that glowing response that did everything right that gets the gold star. So I tried this with my own kids, and it's pretty awesome. I have a kindergartner myself, and so her work comes home daily, homework practice pages, and so I brought in some tonight to share with you, and I think the teacher might have had a nice day because she probably sat on her couch and graded a lot of paper, so I got a nice stack to work with. So I kind of, this was last night, my daughter came home, and I saw, the smiley face, great, this is awesome, good job. I noticed you really tried to write your numbers very clearly. There's a smiley face, smiley face, smiley face. But then I got to this one. And I didn't put a screenshot in here, but it has a nice red X on it with a circle. And that's the one that I chose to discuss with my daughter. I said, oh, yes, this is a mistake. And this is something that we could talk about. And this is something that helps our brain grow. And she's able to repeat that for me now. So we talked about it. We talked about actually the 2 mistakes on this activity. And so number 1 she made a mistake on. She was supposed to circle the 10 frame that had 6. She circled the one with 7. And then she flipped her number 5 the wrong way. So we actually had a good conversation about, okay, so we made these 2 mistakes, and we're going to talk about them and learn from them. And which one helped your brain grow even more? Was it the one where you flipped your number 5 the other way, or did you learn more from making this mistake? And she identified that it was this one. That was like kind of a bigger mistake that had more opportunity for learning. It was kind of a bigger concept, that 10 frame. So we talked about it, and it's kind of cool because I think as a parent, I'm going to put this on the refrigerator now. Not necessarily the one that has 100 on it. I'll put the mistake up there to kind of remind her of that conversation. So that might be something that you try at home. It's definitely a change from what we may have traditionally done. And we're just sending that message that mistakes are good, we value them, struggling is good. When we get 100, good job, but it's those mistakes that allow us to grow. So when your child comes home and they have that test perhaps and they say, I made a lot of mistakes, I want you to just think about what might you say. You know your kids best.
You should actually say, congratulations, your brain grew a lot. Seriously, that's what Joe Muller says that in the book. Those of you who will read the book, and I hope a lot of you will, she actually says, she started telling her daughter when she came home, when the daughter came home and said, Mom, I made no mistakes today, she actually started saying, oh my God, your brain didn't grow today. I was like, she really said she started doing it, and then it became a practice, and her daughter, who was terrified of mathematics, now feels a lot more comfortable. So think about it. I know it's going to sound very artificial, it does, but slowly it becomes a part of your vocabulary. And that'll be open to change. All right, so we're going to show you 3 or 4 ways that strategies that you can use with your children every day, in the car, while you're talking to them, working with them. So I'm going to start by 1, which is we need to provide all our children with what we call low floor, high ceiling tasks. What I mean by that is anybody can have a point of entry. A high schooler who's taking AP Calculus, and a kid who is in 5th grade or 6th grade or even in 3rd grade. That's called low floor, high ceiling because it's an open-ended mathematical question. And there is a website that you can go to just for fun. So if I give you this, for example, my question would be, which one doesn't belong? Clearly not the AP Calc. But if I say, which one doesn't belong, I want you to tell me what comes to your head first. Just raise your hand. Which one of these would you say doesn't belong? And there's no wrong answer. Anybody?
The one that has 1 coin.
The one that has 1 coin. Anybody, anything else?
The one that has many coins in the top different coffer.
It is the one which is different denominations. The dimes. The single coin. quarter, right? So, how many of you think that it is the quarter? Can you tell me why it's the quarter? Anybody? Why is it the quarter? Because? So, she said she sees multiples of 5. And she went to the quarter because there's only 1 point. The people who said that it is the dimes, right? Why did you say it was the dimes? Because there were 5 dimes. Yeah, they were 5 dimes, they don't equal 25, right? That's your rationale. Can you think of a rationale for picking any one of those 4? There is a rationale for picking any one of those 4 and you're not wrong. So this is a website called Which One Doesn't Belong. It's on the handout that we're going to give you. It's called WODB, and it's got really high level stuff and anybody can do it. The whole point is to justify your thinking. There is no right answer. As long as you can provide a mathematical reason for the one you picked, you're right. So it forces kids to think, and you can do it on the fly. You can do 1 or 2, and the entire family can get involved in it. Because this is so easy, right? There is no wrong. And this builds confidence. It's one of my favorite things. I've asked all our teachers to use it as an opener as often as they can. Because it's about getting kids excited, right? About getting the right answer, or getting an answer and being able to defend it.
Here, other one says use, notice, and wonder. So, as the language arts and social studies person, we have questions that we give at the beginning of every unit, as we do with, in all our subjects. But for an example, in 8th grade social studies, when we talk about the people leaving England to come over to the New World, to America, one of our questions that we have, this broad question, is why leave home? So our students, when we ask that, when we ask that question at the beginning, they have so many different answers about going off to college or getting a job and moving or move, and then eventually someone says like, well, if you immigrate to a new country or something. And then as we learn about why people left England to come over here, then they start having the historical context and the social studies context, and then they see the answer to something. But we ask them to wonder why would people do this in the beginning, and they come up with all kinds of different questions. But we encourage them to just be creative with their answers. So the same thing, in math, you don't think like, it's the process. How do you solve this? What do you see? What rationale would you use? Why would it be like this? So we're going to watch a short video, and it's actually very interesting about, ever wonder what they notice.
At the Math Forum, we worry a lot about problem solving and kids thinking about math and kids thinking that they can do math. And I'm going to talk a little bit about ways in which we do that, right? So long ago, sometime in the mid-90s, I was on an airplane and I was flying to Detroit. And I was going to do a sketchpad workshop, okay? So I gave up my window seat to a 3-year-old. And so his dad sat in the middle. It was late at night. The picture should be at night, but I couldn't find one. So, and the kid's looking out the window and he's going, "Dad, what's that?" And Dad, being a good dad, is answering him. So, "Oh, it's this, it's this." And this goes on for a while. "What's that?" What's the dad answers? That's great. At some point, Dad apparently wasn't paying attention. And so he says, "What's that, Dad?" And I turned and I said to the kid, "Well, what do you think it is?" And he yes, I don't remember what it was, but I know it was profound. And so the rest of the flight went on like that. He's saying, "Well, what's that?" And he said, "What do you think it is?" And eventually doesn't ask anymore, just starts talking about what he's seeing out the window, right? And so later on, we're walking through baggage claim, and I went ahead, and they caught up with me, and the guy says to me, "I listened to the way that you talked to my kid, and you really made him think." I'm going to talk to my son differently from now on. Thank you, right?
It's really just, it's that simple, right? It's the same thing. We give them the answer, like, well, Dad, I can't figure this out. And you say, but it's easy, and this is how you do it, and we show, and we do the steps for them, then there's not that, the lines aren't forming, and the synapses aren't firing, all those things. But if we ask them, what do you think? How do you know? What could it be? Then the process begins of they're working it out, and they're moving through it. And it doesn't have to be, we're here for math mindset, right? But it's any of those things, like, in a book, why do you think the character made that choice? Why do you think that, this is the reason this plant grows here? All those different things, and having them formulate the process, formulate the answers, and then that begins the conversation. They realize they don't have to ask for every answer, but they can find those answers out on their own.
So this is an example of notice and wonder here. So you could just show this picture and ask them what they noticed and what they wondered, and use that as a starting point. We're doing that again in a lot of our math classes.
So really, some of these routines we're sharing with our teachers, right? To help our students see that math isn't just this isolated subject. It's integrated into everything you do in everyday life. So we're sharing these tools that we use instructionally because as parents, you can be teachers too and using these with your kids. So one of my favorite routines that I've shared with teachers is Threeact Math. It's pretty similar to what Mark just showed you. You're going to have access to this presentation later to click on this link, access the website. It's pretty user-friendly, but the gist of Threeact Math is you watch a real-world situation. It's really supposed to spark that curiosity, allow kids to make observations, and ask questions about something they see in everyday life. So it's very related to our science curriculum as well. Looking at the world around you, noticing what you see, and having it spark those questions. We could do the same thing in math. So, this was a video on their website. You would show this video to kids. It's a video, if you clicked on it, where there's this full cup of Kool-Aid, and some mystery hand comes out and drinks a certain amount of it. And so the kids really get a kick out of that and watching it, and you allow them to notice, you allow them to ask their own mathematical questions, jot them down, collect them, discuss them. Then as a teacher, you would isolate it to one specific question that you really want to explore as a class. And then you ask them a very important question. What do you want me to tell you in order to answer that question? What information do you need? So it's again putting that ownership on them to really kind of get involved with the math problem-solving process themselves. So they tell you what information you need and you kind of say, well, all right, I guess I can tell you that. You give them the information, they go off, they solve. They use multiple strategies, what works at their level. You come back together and you share. And so it's 3 acts because first you're allowing them to notice, wonder. The second act is you're allowing them to focus in on one mathematical question and get some more information about that question. And then act 3 is that kind of share of their problem-solving process. So that's one of our favorite routines as well, and very connected to the everyday math that Aparna is going to talk about.
So everyday math is exactly like the name suggests. So you have a stick of butter and it's always marked in by tablespoon, right? Suppose you wanted a third of a cup of butter, then how would you cut this stick up? That's a math question. We give it to our 7th graders who are in pre-algebra and we ask them to mark it off. I cannot tell you how many of them froze, but when you put it in the form of find a third of this number, they're able to do it. So that means they're not translating that 1/3 of something into looking at a stick of butter. I'll tell you something that happened with my niece. We were baking, and I wanted her to measure a cup of something, and my cup, 1 cup measure was in the dishwasher, it was dirty. So I had a third of a cup, and I said, here, measure out a cup, and she froze. She's a pretty smart kid, but she froze. She was like, I don't know, this is not a cup, this is 1/3. Truly, like it didn't occur to her that she would take 3/3. So I said, all right, so what are we going to do? What is 1/3? What is double 1/3? She was like, 2/3? Like so, with so much hesitation. Then I was like, and add another third to that. How much is that? 3/3? What is 3/3? It took me a good 5 minutes to get her to say 3/3 is equal to 1, right? So we can do that with our children. Fractions is when they start beginning to fall off the cliff, where they decide that math is not my thing, I don't like it. Fractions, decimals. I have a middle school math teacher here, and she'll tell you that that's when our children decide that math is not their thing. So this is something we can do with them because we all cook, right? Gardening is another place where we can do it. When we take them to the store, we all use credit cards now for the most part, right? So making change is not a thing, but discounts are still a thing, right? You can ask them, how much might that be? Tell me, those are examples of everyday math. And there is another website we've included in that, which will give you a lot of opportunities, because sometimes it's hard for us to think on the fly. Though the websites are giving you ideas about where you can talk to your children about math. So,
very quickly, again, you'll have access to this. If you click on the link, you'll find some virtual manipulatives. You know, research really shows that when kids are they're able to visualize mathematics, it really deepens their understanding. So if you Google Glencoe Math virtual manipulatives, there's all different kinds of story maths, manipulatives that can help your children at home. We have those tools available for kids in class. You may not be like me and have math manipulatives in your playroom at home. Only some of us do that. So this is a nice tool to have, as well as these thinking blocks as a part of Math Playground. Those are really great tools for kids from K all the way, I think, to 8th grade. There's even some algebra tasks on there. So virtual math manipulatives through Glencoe Math, as well as thinking blocks as a part of Math Playground.
So, these are 4 things that I want you to remember. Really, really easy 4 things. There's a lot of research. There's also a lot of research that says, when is it that students start believing that they're not very good at math, even before fractions come in? When they start doing rocket math, or those mad math, or those minute math. The moment speed becomes a factor, students start believing that they're not good at math. And once they believe they're not good at math, then that's when they start deciding that they don't want to do it, they want to do something else that they're better at. There's a lot of research which says that speed does not matter. It really does not matter how fast. Of course, I'm not telling you that your student should take 2 hours to solve 2 problems, right? There are some facts which they should own. But depth over speed, right? I'm not promising you that if your child is taking a math class that they're going to have unlimited time to finish the test. Because if they own those concepts, they should be able to finish, right? That we will make sure that we don't put too many questions. But when it comes to like solving 30 multiplication facts in 10 minutes, that's not very important. They should know the facts though. It is important. We are maybe coming back full circle. There was a brief while when knowing facts was not as important. It is. It just makes it easier for them that they're not trying to do the multiplication and then working on the fraction and whatever it is. So it's important to know the facts, but extreme speed is not important. And don't force something. Give them some space and time to think about a concept, right? Revisit the concept a little later. If they don't get adding fractions today, maybe you want to let it go. Come back to it. So don't force something. When they are prepared, it will click. That doesn't mean give up. It just means don't force it. And try to explore together, like find a new way to do that math. Some of us were taught differently from the way our children are now being taught or the way they're thinking about mathematics. So it's a great opportunity for us to work with them in the method that they're being taught in and not with the butterfly method for adding fractions, right? Because that's a procedure. It's not about understanding the fraction. So exploring together goes a long way. And that I can tell you from personal experience because my son is a high school student now, and there are a lot of things, particularly with writing, that I'm learning with him. Like I see something, he comes and shows it to me, and I'm not a good writer. I was not trained to write the way students are. So I'm figuring out what good writing is along with him, and it's been a pretty good experience for us so far. I think it's a big deal for our children to see us working with them and learning together. And it's not like we know all the answers. So that's a good feeling too. And encourage curiosity. Let them, don't provide the answers like in Notice and Wonder. You ask them and they're curious about something, so what do you think it is? Let's look at it together. So these are 4 really simple things that we can do. And most of them pay dividends, really huge dividends.
So on your way out today, Neil showed you the trifold handout that hopefully captures the things that we shared with you tonight. So make sure you grab them. It has our email addresses as well as our hashtag on Twitter if you were to tweet anything out to share with others, SB Math Mindset. It lists a lot of the websites that were shared tonight in one place. Before you go, we wanted you to kind of revisit our original task, and over this presentation, perhaps the attributes that you originally thought would be connected to somebody that is a strong math person, maybe that evolved tonight. So we wanted you to go back in there and enter an additional response. Same code, sly.do B901. Yeah, your thoughts changed over the course of the evening.
All right, please don't leave yet. We're going to give out the books. Those of you who won the raffle.
Hi everyone. If you give me like 3 more minutes, I would really appreciate it. First of all, Dr. Roger Paul, Aparna, Jessica Nastasi, Mark Party. I know I'm a better parent. I have more professional parent knowledge about math than I did at 7 o'clock. So I hope you do as well, and I hope you use some of the language and strategies that they instructed you tonight. So thank you. Can we give these 3 presenters a round of applause, please?